Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Highlights. Before we get started, I do have a few announcements. Starting this Saturday at the Dishman, we have a new exhibition on display. It's titled Russian Art, Soviet Design. It will be available for viewing starting this Saturday until November 14th. Please keep in mind that we do have COVID restrictions still going on right now. So we're open Monday through Saturday. Monday through Friday we're open from 9 to 4, and Saturday we're open from 12 to 4. Please make sure that you wear a mask if you're going to visit, and be prepared to have your temperature taken upon entrance. My second announcement is that the Dishman Art Museum will be pairing up with LU Artist Common in an online exhibition which will be held in our Instagram feed and on our YouTube. And that show is going to be called Artpocalypse. There are some details involved. The cutoff date for entries is going to be, as of now, October 9th. There might be a possibility of that being extended. The maximum number of pieces you can submit for entry is 3. And the theme is kind of, as the title suggests, it's basically any artwork that you've made during quarantine, or just artwork that you've made this year, perhaps in reflection of how this year seems to be going so far. But yes, if you have any questions about the details about that, I'm going to go ahead and put the links below to the Instagram, where you can feel free to send them a DM, or the email address for LU Artist Common. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start talking about what we're going to be discussing today. So we're going to be going over a Kifwebe Mask, and that's from the Songye culture in the Congo. And the book we're going to be discussing is The Water Dancer. So let's go ahead and get started. So this is a Kifwebe mask from the Songye culture, who come from the region of the Congo. In Songye masks, the white pigment symbolizes peace or purity of the soul. This type of mask is used in ritual ceremonies and for the funeral processions of important leaders. It is believed that when they wear these masks, they are able to gain magical powers and manipulate the spirits under their control. Among the small chieftains along the Lomami River, maskers were emissaries of the ruling elite, who relied on the ideology and witchcraft and sorcery to sustain their rule. The Kifwebe members commanded a body of esoteric secret knowledge secretly encoded mnemonically in the mask's features. So The Water Dancer is by author Ta-Nehisi Coates, and it's a book that I just finished recently, and I really enjoyed it. The reason I chose it for the book this week is because, like the mask, there's some elements of spiritualism, I'll say. Basically, I talked about how the wearer of the mask would use it to guide spirits to them to do their bidding, and there's a sort of magical aspect that happens in The Water Dancer that's sort of similar. This book is about, centers around a main character named Hiram, and he's a slave, and his father is actually the owner of the plantation that he lives on, as he's essentially a product of rape, and his mother was sold off when he was a child. Hiram is a dreamer, and he basically dreams of running away, but he also has a deep sense of belonging, whether it's to the very few family members that he has left on the land, or his memories, because he has essentially a photographic memory, and it's sort of a magical power of his. He can basically remember anything, but the only thing that he can't remember is the events that happened the day his mother was sold off. And it's kind of like, if he can remember that, then he can unlock the true sense of his power. So what I enjoyed about this book basically is that it's a really good historical fiction, and that it has a lot of factual elements as far as the true horrors that slaves had to endure during that time, or the standards that they had to live by. But it's filled with just a bit of fantasy to kind of not, in my opinion, the fantasy that's in the book didn't take away from the honesty that was there, if that makes any sense. I think some people didn't really like the fantasy aspects because they felt like it took away from the real brevity of it all. But in my opinion, I think it was done in a respectful way and in a very inventive way. But yes, I love this book. I thought the story was very compelling. Just another warning, it is another one that's hard to read, in that a lot of really awful things happen, but it's written in such a very beautiful way. Ta-Nehisi Coates is really a really gifted writer, and whenever he writes, it kind of immerses you in the story, in the characters, and he writes in such a way that there's a melody to it. So, you know, it's got that lyricism. It's very alluring. I really loved Hiram as a character because, I mean, he literally goes through it. It seems like he's been through just about everything, but throughout the whole time, he never loses the capacity to continue to grow, to continue to love, despite, sorry, I'm tearing up just thinking about it, to continue to love despite everything that he's been through. You know, it's like that never actually, it never breaks him, which is something that's really aspiring and beautiful. Another thing that I loved about this book is that it has lots of elements of philosophy and more elements of feminism as well that I thought I would find. The character that kind of plays opposite to Hiram is named Sophia, and she's also a slave, and in the book they don't really refer to themselves as slaves. Hiram refers to himself and the other slaves as the tasked, and based on, you know, what task you have, whether it's working in the fields or working in the house or things like that. It's Sophia's unfortunate task to be a companion to one of the other plantation owners. And there's a moment when she's speaking to Hiram, you know, when basically it's said in more ways than not that, you know, slavery isn't just a physical owning of someone else. It's also an emotional and mental owning of someone else. She talks about how difficult it is for women, for her and for women like her, who are basically tasked to sleeping with these plantation owners and slave owners, and then they end up having children, and then it's like it's a whole nother form of slavery that ties them to that place and to those people, because despite everything, it's still their child. They still end up loving their children. I was really pleased to see that, basically, in that the writer is a man and the main character is a man, but he's still out here kind of exploring different forms of oppression and kind of breaking down all the forms of different kind of oppression that there are, which I thought was really important. The reason that I felt like this book could be related this week is because Harriet Tubman is actually mentioned and one of the characters in the book. In real life, Harriet Tubman might as well be a superhero. I think she's still considered the most successful member of the Underground Railroad, and that she freed the largest amount of people. In the book, she has a magical power called conduction. And the power of conduction is she uses the stories of her life to draw up spirits that channel her and other slaves across bits of land, so she can bring them to freedom. And I thought that was a lot like the mask that we talked about today, because again, it's kind of like the mask is helping the wearer draw up spirits and energy to kind of channel something into or out of their lives. So yeah, I thought that that was really cool. I don't think it's a spoiler that I mentioned that Harriet Tubman's in the book, but I didn't know that when I started reading it, and I was really pleased to hear that she was in it. And then, at first she kind of gets a small mention, and then she becomes a key character in the book. So that was really exciting, and if you're a fan of Harriet Tubman, then I think that's another thing that will help you enjoy this book. And yeah, I think that's all I really have to say about it. Again, I really enjoyed it. Again, please be aware that there's a lot of traumatic events and scenery, so just brace yourselves for that if it's something that you want to look into. But I highly recommend it and think it's worth reading. And I'm so excited to read more of Ta-Nehisi Coates. This is a side note, but I think it's important because, voting is coming up soon. Just like the characters in the book and just like us in real life, the time for idleness is over, if there ever was one. If you want to bring equality for everyone, if you want there to be more equality in this world, the time is now to vote for it. Not to get super political, but yeah, I hope you're registered to vote, and I hope that you do vote. Yeah, please don't sit by the sidelines, because it's up to you and it's up to us to make a difference. And that's only going to happen if you're being active. So please be active this election season. Other than that, I hope you have a great weekend, and I'll see you next week. Bye.